guys, this is Sel with Acre Books. I have with me Audra Trosper, A.D Trosper. She is author of the Dragon Call series. This is a treat. Hi Audra, thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to do this. This is like I said, the first time I've done one of these.
Well, the pleasure is all ours here.
So this is all new to me, but so far it's going well.
Well, great. I'm glad. All right, so let's start with the Dragon Call series. Tell us about that.
The Dragon Call series is a classic tale of good against evil. It's your epic fantasy. I have a fairly large cast of characters. In the first book, there are 6 main characters, and then it's went up to like 8 main characters in the second book, and I've got a few extra point of view characters, and that's not counting the dragons. We do have dragons. We have riders bonding with those dragons. A whole lot of stuff is going down. The first book, it's kind of an introductory to the whole thing. It takes you through, you meet all the characters.
Yeah.
Some things go down, but it doesn't leave you on a cliffhanger. Leaves you feeling pretty good. And then the second book, it doesn't end quite so well. But
don't give too much away.
I give too much away, but yeah, but it's your basic tale of good against evil. You have your good guys and you have your bad guys. I get more into those in the second book. You learn some more of the complexities of the bad guys. Actually, one of the bad characters is one of my favorite characters at this moment in time, just because she's so complex.
Yeah.
So,
wow. Okay.
And I'm working on the third book in that series right now. So,
all right.
It should release this year.
Cool. We'll look forward to that. So we were talking earlier before we started the interview, and you mentioned about a map.
Yes.
A map. Can you walk us through that? Why is a map involved in here? I think your readers would love to know this story.
Well, I made a map. One thing is it's a whole created world. It's epic fantasy, so the world doesn't technically exist. So you have to build everything from scratch. And as I was about halfway through writing the first book, I came to a point where I couldn't figure out exactly which way my characters should be turning to go where they needed to go, and about how long it would take to get from point A to point B on horseback, because you can't just have them like arrive 2 days later. There's no jet planes,
Yeah.
So I sat down and started drawing out a map for them. I figured, okay, there's rivers here and there's towns here, and then I had to name the towns and name the oceans and name the countries and all this kind of stuff. I have several different nations, but as I was saying earlier, that I don't draw maps well, so it looked like a kindergartner had scribbled it out. So when I had Embers redone, and then of course for Tears it's in there, my designers took that map and turned it into a much more fantasy.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it's not real elaborate. It's simple, but I like it. It's kept clean, but you get mountains are there, you get rivers and the whole shebang, and I really like it. So.
Well, I just thought it was real interesting, in the mind of a fiction writer.
Yes.
You had to draw a map to keep track of everything. I think I think it's cool. I'm sure some of your readers do too.
I actually have stacks of notes, tons and tons of notes. Normally this space right here I've cleared off, but it's like this high. I have so many supporting notes. People are like, oh, it's just a manuscript. It's not. I have files and files, because I have so many characters that I have them all written down. I have what they basically look like, where they're from, that kind of thing. And because both of the first 2 books are in audio already, I even have written down who has accents, because the lady who does my narration for my audio, she was able to give them different accents, so they don't all sound the same in the audiobook. So, but then I have to remember, okay, well then if other people come from the same nation as this character, they need to sound the same as her.
Yeah,
so
they have to have the same accent, right?
So as I go, I'm like writing down, okay, they're from so-and-so, they have an accent. So I have lots of stuff to keep track of, and right now I'm having fun. There's a lot of battle stuff going on, so I have to remember, who is where. That's another big one. In the first book, it concentrated mainly on those main characters, but then in the second book, they kind of branched out back to their home nations. And then, so we're meeting families, and we're meeting kings, and we're meeting councils and things like that. So then I had to remember all these people. And at one point I needed a council of 7 for this one nation. And I'm thinking, oh, great, I need a council of 7. Well, about that time, like these 5 guys come filing into my head, stopping, they're shaking my mental me's hand and introducing themselves. And I'm like scribbling their names down as they go by. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm like, okay, you guys can go stand over there until I need you. But yeah.
That's a great picture of a fiction writer's brain, A.D Trosper's brain.
It's a chaotic place in there. It is.
I have to ask. Are
Yes.
any of these fictional characters, I know you said earlier the world isn't real, but any of them inspired by real people, Any crazy person in your books that you're like, ah, yeah, that was a crazy uncle.
Actually, no, I don't have anybody who's inspired like that. Honestly, I think so, to some extent, some of the male characters in my book always take on bits and pieces of my husband's personality.
Okay.
Um, as I'm writing, I can kind of see, and I also often think, what would he do? If this was him, what would he do? Or I'll turn around and I'll ask him, is this a believable way for a guy to react? And he'd be like, oh, so, or he'd be like, no, there's no way a guy's going to do that. Like, okay, maybe you're right that. So, but yeah, mostly they show up in my head. They introduce themselves to me by name. They start telling me their backstories, and I'm like, okay, yeah. And they show up when I'm sleeping or some things. Like one day I was having trouble figuring something out, how to get a something in the book explained. I was trying to explain one of their magics in a relatable way, and I wasn't sure how to do it. And I went to bed that night, and one of these characters, she shows up, and she pulls out this, metal folding chair, which was really weird because there's no metal chairs in the book. And she sits down, and she proceeds to explain to me how this magic works.
Wow.
So the next morning, I repeated what she said verbatim.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy in here. I say I have a waiting room. It's kind of like an emergency room. It's waiting.
Characters, huh?
It's lined with cheap plastic chairs, and I got all these characters, and they're reading, out-of-date magazines, and they're waiting to be read, and that's actually how my young adult paranormal romance started, was because these characters came busting through the door, and they're like demanding I write them now at the desk, and I couldn't get security to throw them out, so I wrote them.
You should write a book, a guide to fiction writing, and then title it The Waiting Room. I think that would be a great title. I'll buy it.
It's interesting. I have a ghost in my head that is she's an angry ghost, and then I have an impatient vampire who, sure, if I don't write her before I die, that she'll just move to somebody else's head because she's immortal, so she really doesn't care. And yeah, so I have probably about 8 different characters from different books lined up in there waiting. So yeah.
Wow. So I know you've won some awards. Take us
Yes.
through a couple of them.
I have won the Turning the Pages Award for Best Fantasy Book of the Year twice. Once with Embers of Galderleen, and then with the sequel for Tears of War. I've won Indie Book of the Day awards for both Embers and Tears. And then Embers was nominated with the Reader's Favorite Awards, which is a very large thing. They have a huge awards ceremony in Florida and everything. So you
went out there and
November.
Enjoyed some sunshine.
I actually didn't. I was going to, but I really couldn't. And then the Turning the Pages Awards also had a big one in Florida just a few days ago. And I was going to go to that one. I had every intention of making it to that one. But then we really needed another vehicle. So instead of going to Florida, I ended up with a green Suburban named Florida.
This is close enough.
Yeah, so
green, I guess sunshine. It works.
Yeah, Florida's kind of green. Yeah. So anyway, so we named the truck Florida. That's her name.
There you go. Okay. So we're talking about all these characters, and congrats on those awards, by the way.
Thank you very much.
We're talking about these characters, and I think your readers and I want to know, how is your life different as a fiction writer as opposed to the rest of us that, we don't have all these characters screaming to be written out. We don't have a waiting room of them.
I imagine mine's probably a lot noisier and a lot more, it's always going on. It never stops. Sometimes if I don't write enough or my characters get real excited about an upcoming scene, I can't sleep because they're like running around in my head and they're waving swords and the dragons are making noise. I'm like, would you all be quiet? I'm trying to sleep. And they're like, you should get up writing us. And I'm like, I can't. It's 2:00 in the morning. I'm tired. Or I've written a lot and I'm laying there and I'm almost asleep and they're going, oh, by the way, you should add this. Oh, add this. And yeah. Or they throw plot twists at me. One of the characters in there is named Kieran. She's total warrior woman, type. And originally, when I was getting ready to write this book originally, I was going to have her, they bond mate with somebody, which they like soulmates. They all, they become, I don't know, connected to each other, And I was going to have her be mated with this one guy named Vatic, and then she informed me that under no uncertain terms was that ever happening. She was going to have no husband, and she was not going to be attached to anybody other than her dragon in any way, shape, or form, and I could just kiss it if I wanted something else. So, yeah, she didn't invite it to anybody.
She dictated.
They do very much so. They do. They will stop playing if I don't listen. Yeah, my muse gets in a huff and she storms off and won't speak to me, and then my characters are like, I ain't talking to you. Yeah. They actually, I had writer's block once for about 3 months because I didn't listen to the characters. And I was like, this was with Embers. And I was like, no, the story's going to go this way. And so I made the story go this way. And then I got a couple more chapters past that or so, and they were at an inn eating dinner, and that was it. They refused to move. And I thought they're going to be too fat to get back on their horses. They've been eating dinner for like 3 months.
Going to kill those horses.
They've been eating for 3 months. But I finally decided I would listen to them. I cut out those couple chapters, backed it all the way back up to where it was flowing good. Actually cut 2 characters out that my other characters have been saying they don't belong here, not here. So I cut them out. 5 entire chapters came out in the end, and I had to rewrite a whole bunch of stuff. But it really went crazy after that, and that's when I learned that if the characters insist on something, you go with it.
You give it to them.
So, yeah. And people are like, well, you're in control of your characters, you are the author. No, I'm not. I'm the author. I'm the scribe. That is my job. I scribe. I humbly follow them about my head while they go on their grand adventures, and I write it down. That's my job.
Wow, that sounds like a key to a great fiction. So you told me about this. We have to get this in before we run out of time.
Yes.
You've written, let me look at my notes, a children's Christmas story.
Yes, it is not a traditional Christmas story.
And this is not a fictional story, is it?
Yes, it is. It is fictional. I made it fictional. It started out, as I told you, about my 4-year-old at the time. When we set up a Christmas tree, we put the presents under there, already wrapped, and the kids get to stare at it for however long and wonder what's in it. And but he wanted to open them early, and I said, we can't. And he said, why? And I told him that, well, if you do, then the Christmas magic won't have time to finish, and you'll be able to pull the present out, but then you won't be able to, keep it. It'll disappear on you. And I had told my editor about this, and she went nuts and wanted me to write this story. My husband agreed with her, so I came up with a children's Christmas story that fit that. And it actually starts out with a mother and her kids, and she's wrapping presents, and then she sits down to tell the kids this tale of Christmas magic, and it goes back to Father Christmas and him trying to bring Christmas to people for the very first time, and them just totally not getting it. Yeah. And he ends up asking for help from the forest god and Mother Nature, and they finally send him to the god of everybody, the one god, whatever. So he goes and talks to him, and he's like, well, maybe you should try this, and so yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Wow. Wow. Sounds like a fun story.
It was. I wasn't even sure how I was going to write it when I sat down to write it. That's just what came out.
It just came out.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
And you've written one other book.
Mm-hmm.
Which
yes.
is a young adult romance book.
Yeah, paranormal romance.
Paranormal romance.
Yeah. It's.
And that's your latest one, right?
That is my latest one. It's called Bound by Time. And it deals with the characters are actually the main female character is she's 19, and the guy is like 23. So they're actually almost as new adult, but there seems to be some certain requirements for new adult in the realm of explicit scenes and things like that. And I don't write those, so it ended up in the young adult category, because I'm not comfortable with those kind of scenes, with writing those. So, but it's about a lady who's got inherited magic that's trying to break free, and there's this demon that's after her, and this dark angel guy who's trying to help protect her and steer her in the right direction. And she starts off with a lot of, she's not the strongest person in the world, but by the end of the book, she's really standing up and doing what needs to be done, and that kind of thing. I wanted to portray a female character in a young adult paranormal romance that did not need to change into whatever the guy was in order to be with him. It seems like, you've got the vampires, and they're all turning out, well, she got to become a vampire so that she can be with you, whatever. And why can't she just be her? Yeah. So I wanted something that she would be with him. There is a certain amount of an immortality element, but it's not done and they live forever type thing. And she needs to be who she is. She can't turn into what he is at all, and she needs to be who she is for them to be together. So I wanted something just a little different. So, and it was funny because it was supposed to be a horror book when it started out, and then so I'm writing along and things are dark and then I'm like, wait a minute, that's not horror. And then my characters are like, well, yeah, and you have great ideas, but
This is
what
how it's
we're
gonna go.
I'm like, okay, so we go from horror to young adult paranormal romance. Got it.
There you go. Well, that story sounds pretty good too. Wow.
Yeah.
And so you're coming up with the fourth
The
in
third,
your Dragon's Call series, right?
the third, the third in
Third,
this.
sorry,
Yeah,
third.
yeah. There's a prequel, but it's not actually part of the main series. So
Right.
it will be the third book in that series, and then I have 2 more books planned for the Bound series. They'll all be bound by something. I have Bound by Legend and Bound by Dreams that'll be coming out later,
Wow.
and I also have like I said, the Angry Ghost. She's in my head. She wants written eventually, and
So she's gonna get her time.
she's gonna get her time. I got the vampire who eventually has her time. I have kind of a sci-fi young adult one floating around in my head. So there's a lot in there. It's kind of busy.
Wow.
So
Sounds like some of these should be turned into movies.
that's what my
Make great
husband
motion
says.
pictures.
Yeah. That's what my husband says, that they should all be turned into movies. But then, it's great when they become movies. Of course, it'd be great for me monetarily, but
Yeah.
but then they're going to take the story and they're going to pick it apart.
It's gonna become something completely different.
Yes,
And you'll
yes.
have a lot of angry characters.
Yeah, or angry fans or whatever. I know
Yeah.
the Aragon book. I loved the book Aragon. The movie just was so disappointing. It was like, no, you can't do that with these characters. I guess the producer had a different vision than the author did.
Yep, you sell the rights away. Well,
Yeah.
this was a fun, exciting talk. I wish we had a lot more time to get into some of these characters, get into more of your life. But thank you so much for joining us.
You're
This
welcome.
is exciting.
Thank
We
you.
should do this again sometime.
Whenever. I'm good to go. So,
Great.
and like I said, just call on me whenever. So,
Well, we'll do. Well, guys, this is what we got for you. If you don't feel like going to read these books in the Dragon Call series, the new paranormal romance out, I don't know. I'm speechless. And we're gonna have links available for these books that Audra has written. Thank you so much, Audra, for doing this with us. This was fun and exciting. I'm sure our readers, your readers, they love this. Thank you again.
thank you for having me.
All right, bye everyone.
Bye.